Yes, it would, wouldn't it?
agreed Mrs. Hale, a certain determined naturalness in her voice. She had picked up the sewing, but now it dropped in her lap, and she murmured in a different voice.
But I tell you what I do wish, Mrs. Peters. I wish I had come over sometimes when she was here. I wish I had.
But of course you were awful busy, Mrs. Hale. Your house and your children.
I could have come,
retorted Mrs. Hale shortly.
I stayed away 'cause it weren't cheerful, and that's why I ought to have come.
She looked around.
I've never liked this place. Maybe because it's down in a hollow and you don't see the road. I don't know what it is, but it's a lonesome place, and always was. I wish I had come over to see Minnie Foster sometimes. I can see now.
She did not put it into words.
Well, you mustn't reproach yourself,
counselled Mrs. Peters.
Somehow we just don't see how it is with other folks till something comes up.
Not having children makes less work,
mused Mrs. Hale after a silence.
But it makes a quiet house, and right out to work all day, and no company when he did come in. Did you know John Wright, Mrs. Peters?
Not to know him. I've seen him in town. They say he was a good man.
Yes, good,
conceded John Wright's neighbour grimly.
He didn't drink and kept his word as well as most, I guess, and paid his debts, but he was a hard man, Mrs. Peters. Just to pass the time of day with him.
She stopped, shivered a little.
Like a raw wind that gets to the bone.
Her eye fell upon the cage on the table before her, and she added, almost bitterly,
I should think she would have wanted a bird.
Suddenly she leaned forward, looking intently at the cage.
But what do you suppose went wrong with it?
I don't know,
returned Mrs. Peters.
Unless it got sick and died.
But after she said it, she reached over and swung the broken door. Both women watched it as if somehow held by it.
You didn't know her?
Mrs. Hale asked, a gentler note in her voice.
Not till they brought her yesterday,
said the sheriff's wife.
Come to think of it, she was kind of like a little bird herself, real sweet and pretty, but kind of timid and buttery. How she did change.